Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Arcana Novum 2.0 Dev Spotlight. Arcana Novum has been a mod that I've been making for servers that add a bunch of magic items and kind of expand the late game vanilla aspect of Minecraft. And we've recently overhauled most of the code, so it's a lot more efficient, and we've added a lot of new features, including a new crafting system, and I'm here to show that off to everybody. So, the way that I'm going to go about this tutorial is kind of show the new basics as well as some of the new items, and then show off a bit of what's changed with other existing content. So the way you start with the mod is the same as usual. You take your enchanting table and eye vendor and just craft them together, shapeless in your recipe, and you get your first tome. And this is still going to be the guidebook that it's always been. However, you can no longer craft from the guidebook. You have to create a Starlight Forge, which is the first kind of major overhaul of the 2.0 version. And the way that you make a Starlight Forge now is you have to make it in the world. So we take here a smithing table and an enchanted golden apple. You have to go out and find one in a desert temple or a deep dark city. And so we're going to place this down anywhere in the world. We're going to throw our enchanted golden apple on it. And before we throw our tome on it, we have to wait for the height of a new moon. So I'm going to add some time here. And that should be this should be close enough to what we need. Ooh. As long as both of these are on top of the smithing table, you'll see these particle effects. And once it's completed, we will have completed our first Starlight Forge. And so this is a forge now, and you can see I can pick this up and it's transformed. And so what we have to do in order to use it is we have to make the multi-block. And we can see that it shows a little hologram of what we need to do to make this. We need a block of diamond and 8 pieces of varying types of obsidian. Place that here. And now we have our forge. There's 2 options here. The first is crafting our magic items. This is the same crafting menu as you're used to in your tome for 1.0. And you can look through and look at recipes and load them in if you have access to them. However, some recipes now will require additions to your forge. We have 5 spots for 5 additions you can create to your forge, and they just have to be in the nearby area. If we pick up our forge here, it says that you have a 17 by 11 by 17 area around the forge. And any of the additions within that radius will allow you to craft new things. So if I go into our recipes here, and for example, if I want to make a brain in a jar, the recipe will say requires a midnight enchanter, and you can see that it's also displayed up in the top left here. And so we'll get to some of these additions. Now I'm going to put the time back to day. And so the second option in here is forging equipment, which you can make armor and weapons. However, we don't have the third ingredient we need, which is Stardust, which we will get to how you get Stardust in a moment. One of the first additions you want to get for your Starlight Forge is the Twilight Anvil here. That is because you can no longer augment your items in your tome. Augmentation has to take place in a Twilight Anvil. So to get your Twilight Anvil, I'll just show the crafting recipe for it real quick. You're going to need some anvils, some netherite, some diamonds, and some bottles of enchanting. And just like the other blocks, we're going to need to make a multi-block here, which requires a block of netherite at its base. And you can see when we place some wrong things, I am just screwing everything up. And so now we have our Twilight Anvil. If you notice that if we don't have a forge nearby, it won't let you use it at all. You do need an active Starlight Forge nearby to use any of these additions by themselves. So what this anvil does, on top of unlocking a bunch of new recipes, particularly catalysts themselves will require an anvil, is that we need, or we can rename magic items, or rename any item, honestly. So we can just name this Axe, and it will become Axe. That will get renamed. This also works on magic items to keep their colored text in bold. You can also use this as a normal anvil. However, the little GUI here is a bit different because it allows you to exceed the base XP cost. Most anvils will stop at 39 levels, which is quite annoying when you want to combine, a bunch of books together and then put them on a new item. However, this will bypass that cost entirely, as well as it will let you combine enhanced gear that you make from the forge using Stardust from our next item, which is the Stellar Core. So this one is the biggest of the additions. However, it is still just an exotic magic item. And we can place this down there. See, we make a little housing for the Stellar Core. I'm gonna gather all this stuff up and do some speed building here the best I can without misplacing anything. You're gonna need a bunch of obsidian as well as some blackstone. So you're gonna have to either trade for some piglins or go to a Basalt Delta or just mine around in the Nether. And the hologram does go away after a while, just in case you don't want it sticking around forever. And the important part is that you do need to keep the center of the core here open. However, you'll notice that if I place down a block, within the vicinity of other structures, it doesn't mind at all. So it will tell you if part of the structure needs to be empty or not, if there's blocks already there. It also does need the blocks being the correct orientation. For example, this iron bar doesn't extend all the way over because I have not added this wall here, and once I do that, it'll be happy. So, we'll finish this up. It's also worth noting that some aspects of orientation are not considered. For example, this campfire here can be any orientation, and same with the hay bale, so I could put it diagonally up or down, left or right, and it won't matter. Just to keep the general look of the forge the same, but not worrying about too minute of details. One little detail that does matter, however, is getting this to face, or placing this in the right orientation, like that. Third time's the charm. Drop some stuff here. Now, if I got a parkour all the way up to the top. Alright, final few blocks. Oh, I should actually put that on last and grab a placeholder. I can place these stairs. And then last two. The 3 slabs. And now you'll see that the core has become active. There's a little mini star inside. And what this lets us do is we can salvage equipment. So I have some stuff here. Maybe I got some spare gear, or made way too many chest plates on accident, as I'm sure we've all done at some point. All we have to do is put it in, and it will give us a portion of the materials back. It is not based on durability, so if you put in an axe, with 1 durability left for a full health axe, it'll get the same amount. It is based on how many items it takes to craft the item in the first place. So the base return rate is 25%. So boots will give you 1, chestplate will give you 2, and it rounds to the nearest whole number. So leggings should also give you 2. It gets interesting with enchantments. So here I have an enchanted netherite chestplate. I'll get back 1 scrap, because that's 1/4 of a netherite ingot. But you also get stardust, which we will use to forge some improved equipment in our Starlight Forge over here, which I can show off right now. So if we go into the Forge Equipment menu, and say we want to let's make a nice shiny sword, because I don't have one. We can load in the recipe for a sword, and once we put in some stardust, I don't want to blow all of our stardust all at once, I'm going to put in 10. We can forge the sword with 10 stardust, and when we get it out, it'll have some improved abilities. So, this one attacks a little bit faster, and does a little bit more damage than a normal sword. You will notice that if I look at stats for a normal sword here, it shows them a bit differently. That is because, for some odd reason, when you make a empowered sword, it displays the stats based, like, compared to a normal fist, rather than the total overall stats that you see in a vanilla sword. There's not much you can do about it, so it's kind of hard to convert between 7 attack damage on a vanilla sword to 6.26. One thing that you can do that I think the conversion is adding 2 to the attack damage, and then for the attack speed, the base of a normal sword is negative 2.4, and you can see here that this is negative 1.9, so this is slightly faster, which you can see just by comparing my attack indicator refilling. So that is enchanted or improved equipment. We can put in more stardust, and it will give us a higher chance of getting better stats. It is still random, it just improves our odds a little bit. I'm actually going to put in a sword so I can show off the Anvil's ability to combine these things. So you can see here even though I used more stardust, I got a worse result, just bad luck. So over here, if we go to the Enhanced Anvil, we would need some levels. Borrow. I had a Brandon jar somewhere. Here it is. You're leaving it around. I'm going to take some of that XP. Now, we put swords together. You can see that it'll improve it a tiny bit. You want the 2 items you're combining to be as close as possible to maximize the boost. Because this first sword is so awful, it's like barely above a regular sword. It's like 0.07 extra attack damage. It doesn't add that much to our second sword here, which is pretty decent. It will also cost a bit of XP to combine the 2. And we can do that. That's how you can get all your way to a maximum possible sword, which would be a sword with 50% extra attack damage. And the same goes for armor, which I will make a chest plate, and I'll use the last of our stardust here. And so this can give you bonus stats on top of just normal armor. It can give you knockback resistance, armor toughness, and if you get really, really lucky, it can even boost your maximum health pool. So I'll put this on and see that we get only shows 8 ticks because we didn't get all the way up to a 9th armor bar, but you can do that with a bit of extra luck and combining the armor that you make. So, one last thing I forgot to show off about the anvil is this is where the augment menu is now. I can throw on my tome here, and you can see that the normal upgrades are available. This is where you would choose to add them if you had an item that could be upgraded, which of course the tome can't because it's all related to your profile rather than the item. And you can go to the item page and unlock upgrades and see the achievements here as well. So next up, we're going to have the Fletchery, the Radiant Fletchery here. And this needs a diamond block as its base, and then some amethyst, and some glowstone. And I just realized that I did not prepare the necessary items for using this. So I'm going to grab some arrows. Potion of some variety. Do this and that. So what this does is it gives you a better conversion ratio for making tipped arrows. So normally you get 1 lingering potion gives you 8 arrows. Well here, the base conversion is 1 to 24. And you don't even need a lingering potion. You can use any potion you want. So you get 24 arrows of regeneration, and you get 24 arrows of instant health. And you can also just leave your arrows and potions in there and come back and get them later if you want. And that is the kind of secondary functionality. The main purpose of the Radiant Fletchery is to unlock all of the archery-related magic items. So any runic arrows require a Fletchery, any of the quivers will require a Fletchery, any of the bows or crossbows will require the Fletchery as well. So next up, we're going to do the Midnight Enchanter. Midnight Enchanter is very, very useful. It's probably the most useful out of the Forge editions here. Going to need another diamond block as its base, with some obsidian surrounding it. And then 4 lapis blocks. And this also needs 20 bookshelves nearby within normal enchanting table radius. You can put them anywhere you want, which is why it doesn't show up in the hologram. So you could stack it up like this if you really wanted to. Oh, I can't cover that. And you can put them even above or below. So if you wanted to, you could put them up here. And that will be enough. And so what this does is it allows you to select enchantments to put onto items rather than leaving it up to some chance. And you can also disenchant items. So over here, I'm going to grab books and enchanted gear. And say I want to disenchant this item. I can disenchant it into essence. And that will remove the enchant from the boots and give us a certain amount of nebulous essence. And with the nebulous essence, we can now enchant items. So say we want to put something on the sword. We just want to put sharpness 1, let's say. And we go up to the XP cost here. It takes 1 level and 2 nebulous essence. We can do that. And now we have our sharpness 1 sword. Let's say we want to put something more on it. We can put an enchanted item back into the enchanter and throw on some looting. Looting's a bit too expensive for essence because it's a rare enchant and a high level of that enchant. Let's see, Sweeping Edge is the same thing. We can upgrade our sharpness from level 1 to level 3. We could also throw Unbreaking on there, and that will use up most of the essence we have left. We can also strip items off of books, or enchantments off of the books to get more essence. And then we can use that essence again to throw on protection for these boots. That's pretty useful. And there's an augment that you can get where you can take off enchants and store them onto books instead of disenchanting them onto essence, as well as sending, or there's another augment where you can get more essence per disenchantment. You can also send the enchantment that you remove over to our last board structure here, the Arcane Singularity. So we will build that with another diamond block at the center. A pretty similar setup to the Enchanter, just with a bit of added stuff on the side. Gonna need a amethyst block with an amethyst cluster at the center, as well as some blocks from the nearest end city you can find. Once it's done, I'm gonna step back. You'll see the Singularity forms, and what this is it's a library. You can see I got an achievement for having all of the Forge editions for one of my forges. So what this does is you can just shift-click in your enchanted books, and it's a library for them. You can sort them based on alphabetical, how many levels there are, the highest level, the highest rarity, the least levels. You can filter it for swords, bows, axes, tools, anything you can think of. Treasure enchants, curses, things like that. And I guess I just enchanted all my books. You can be able to send enchants from the Enchanter to the Singularity if you have the augment, which I will show off. Yeah, so you have Precision Disenchanting, which sends that to the Singularity, and the Singularity you can get Accretion, which allows you to combine enchanted books and uncombine enchanted books within the Singularity without having to take them out and use an anvil and use any experience to do that. So these two work very well together, and also make it a lot easier to get exactly the enchantments you want at a pretty decent cost for experience. So that is all the Forge editions. And before I head over to that area, I'm going to cover the other magic items that were added and dump some of my inventory contents. Keep the sword, just in case. So, the first new item is the Charm of Wild Growth. What this does is it interacts with plants and animals. So, if I turn this on by shift right-clicking, animals will start to breed, and nearby plants will grow. Most of these plants are already grown. You can see there, just accelerate the growth of that particular seed. If I replace these with non-grown seeds, we can see the effects a bit more. There's another one that just happened. And if you augment this, you can make it so it does its effects more often. It will also cause babies to grow up faster. And with another augment, you can make it so you can right-click to use it as an infinite source of bone meal. So this is pretty useful for farming and getting food quickly and breeding animals very quickly. Next item is the chest translocator. Very useful for when you're moving your storage around. Here we have this cluttered chest that I don't want to deal with. All I have to do, sneak right-click, puts it into the translocator, makes me rather slow, and then I can go and move it elsewhere. And now, keeps its contents. It does have a cooldown though, so you can't do it too quickly. But it's definitely a convenience to have when you're having to move chests all over the place if you don't have shulker boxes yet. You can also decrease the cooldown with augmentation. Next up is pretty much the same thing, except for animals. Here we have my dog. You can just put the dog in there, and it will contain the dog, and it will show you its health. You can augment it so that it heals any creatures that are inside of it. You can only have one creature inside of it at once, and it has to be a friendly creature. So if I were to go and grab a zombie, put the zombie in its cage, I cannot use it on hostile creatures. There is an augment that will change that, and then you can put any mob in there. So I'll keep my wolf on because I'll need him later. Next up is the Planeshifter. This is a very good item to have if you like to travel through the nether to get places faster. So right now, when you craft it, the Planeshifter will not let you go anywhere because you need to visit the dimensions that you're shifting to first. So before I do that, I'm going to take some of these Pearls of Recall because they're going to be useful for getting back. So we're going to go to the nether here. And it'll tell you the shifter has unlocked the nether. And so now we can say that we're in nether mode. And so when you're in the mode of a dimension, it'll either take you to that dimension if you're not in it, or if you're in that dimension, it'll take you back to the overworld. And so, if I use that here, it's going to take me back to the overworld. And it will try and find a nether portal to sync up with if it's in nether mode. So there, because I had a portal nearby in the overworld, it took me here. However, if I get a Planeshifter, I'm going to go back to the nether. And I'm going to break this portal. And then teleport back with one of my Pearls of Recall. So now I'm here. Now I'm going to plane shift to the nether. But there's no portal there for me to sync up with. It's going to put me wherever. Which could be very dangerous in certain scenarios. So usually you want to have some assurances that you can survive any unreliable shifting you're going to be doing. You can also go... I'm going to make myself out of the one. And we can go to the end here. Now, my shifters have unlocked the end. And this one that I just made only has end mode, but this one can shift between both of them. So now I can use it to get back home. End mode will only shift you to the world spawn, which in the overworld is where your bed is, the nether is where your respawn anchor is, and in the end it will take you to that spawn platform. So very useful for getting around when you don't want to build a portal or don't have an end portal nearby. So next up, we have the Arcanist belt. I'm actually going to need those shifters to demonstrate this. Take the one that's at 17%. And so what this is it's a belt for magic items that recharge over time or provide passive effects. It also can fit in some tools, some regular old tools. So it starts off with only 3 slots, but you can unlock more with augments. And so while my items are in here, they are going to recharge. I could also activate this and put it inside here, and its effects will remain active. See, the chickens are continuing to breed. And if I stand over here, you should see plants continue to grow. So pretty useful if you only need the passive effects, or you need a place out of your inventory to store your recharging items. Throw my Pearl of Recall in there as well. Next up, we have the Everlasting Rocket, and I'll take the Alchemical Arbalest with me. The Everlasting Rocket is exactly what it says. It's a rocket that never runs out. Kind of. You can see here it stores 16 charges. These charges will recharge over time. And the rocket that it creates is based on the rocket when you craft it. So if I whip out my crafting recipe for this, the center rocket here is the one that it will take the properties of. So if you put a rocket with explosive charges in there, firework stars, when you use it with a crossbow or when you just light it off, it will explode. The rocket that I have in here is just your basic no explosion flight duration 1 rocket that you use with Elytra most of the time. So if I get myself Elytra, this on, I can use the rocket, boost me around, and it won't run out until I run out of charges, which will recharge slowly over time. I can also put this in my offhand and use it with a normal crossbow, or the Arbalest in this case. The Arbalest comes with multi-shot on it. And the rest of the Arbalest is very useful when using tipped and spectral arrows. So what I'm going to show off is the effect that is created when you use the Alchemical Arbalest with tipped arrows. So I'm going to fire this over in that direction, and you can see it creates a field of that potion effect. So this is great for sort of crowd control or dealing with a bunch of mobs and just putting an effect all over the place without having to deal with finicky, lingering potions. And when you use the Alchemical Arbalest with a Spectral Arrow, I'm going to heal up before I do this, and put down a couple zombies. Really, it had to be a baby. It always has to be a baby, doesn't it? Right when you don't want it to be one. Again. Get out my actual sword. Oh, it's gonna set me on fire. Don't set me on fire. I would very much like to just have normal zombies, please. Oh, that's ridiculous. A normal zombie. There we go. So when we fire our spectral arrows, I'm not actually going to hit the zombies, I'm just going to get them in the effect field. They will glow. Now they'll also take increased damage. So I'm going to hit the zombie with a wooden sword when it's glowing. That will deal 2.5 hearts. And this zombie here... Actually, I'll spawn a new zombie. No one has armor. I'll hit this zombie. And so this zombie here, when I hit it, will only have 1.5 hearts of damage dealt to it. So the spectral arrows will amplify any damage done to the creature. I can hit that, and they'll die a lot faster even with this wooden sword. This also applies to the actual arrows themselves. So if you hit a creature with a spectral arrow, it's going to hurt a lot. So that's very useful for comboing abilities. So say you spray down a spectral arrow, and then you use, say, your Charm of Cinder's Pyroblast on it. That's going to deal a significant amount of damage to everything that gets caught in that area. So that is the last of the basic items. One of these still. Now we're going to go over to the 3 altars. We have 3 altars here. The altars are these center blocks in each of the circles. Oh, God, I should not have broken that. Because when you place it back, it has a very long 30-minute cooldown. I'm going to pause for a second and reset the cooldown on this. Alright, we are back. I waited out did a bit of a tick acceleration. So, these are the 3 altars. The first one here is the Celestial Altar. And what this does is it lets you change the time of day, as well as change the moon phase. So right now it is midday. If I wanted to change the time to night, I can switch it into solar mode, then have the time of day selected to be midnight or nadir. And when we provide it with 1 nether star and complete the ritual multi-block, we can activate it. The altar will do this cool little animation. When the animation completes, time of day will change. See, it is now set to midnight. Next altar here is the Altar of the Stormcaller. What this does is it lets you change the weather for the price of 1 diamond block. So I can switch it to clear sky, but it's already clear skies. So let's charge the clouds a bit. Cause a thunderstorm. This will also play a little animation. You're gonna want to stand back for this one. And now it is thundering outside. Probably see some lightning strikes go off somewhere in the distance. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. I'm gonna clear the weather. I would use the altar, however. It is a 30-minute cooldown because this stuff affects the whole server that you're playing on, and so people would be very annoyed if you were changing the time of day and the weather quite frequently. So the last one here is the most interesting one. It is the Starpath Altar. What this does is it teleports everything inside the circle to the coordinates that you choose. So that is why I'm going to place my lovely little wolf down. And I'm going to set the target location. Right now it is set to the coordinates of the actual altar, so you don't go anywhere. But I'm going to grab the coordinates of the top of that mountain. This is -33, 188, 216. We type in -33, 188, 216 or -216. Good to have that stuff down beforehand. So when you put that in and it recognizes the format, it'll say it's a valid location. If you put something else in, it's going to not recognize that. It also is good to aim a bit high because it will find a safe-ish spot to put you, or at least try to, anywhere below the listed coordinates. So it'll never put you above the coordinates that you select, but it will put you below it, so that's why it's good to overshoot a little bit. So we're going to set that. And it's going to say that the journey costs 3 Eyes of Ender. The farther that you want to teleport, the more Eyes of Ender it's going to cost. So I have a stack here. We're going to activate it. It took 3 Eyes of Ender out of my inventory. You can see the altar is turning on. It plays another animation. Charging up. I'm just going to draw a little constellation before we find ourselves at the top of the mountain with my dog with me. We've got an achievement for teleporting with one of our tamed animals. And the dog was sitting, so it couldn't have teleported by its normal teleportation means. And we are pretty much exactly where we wanted to get put. And so that was the last of the new additions to Arcana Novum 2.0. There are a bunch of minor tweaks and changes to certain augments. Something worth noting is that all items are now fireproof, so you can toss them into lava if you want to. Would want to do that anyways, but now in case if it happens accidentally, you don't burn your nice expensive items anymore. Another change worth noting is with the augments on the Starlight Forge, Skilled was reworked a bit, so now there's only 8 levels, and it kind of cycles over. So once you level up to 100% for the first augment, instead of going directly to a second augment, it will overlap and do another 25, 50, 75, 100 for a second augment. So you have to get all 8 levels to get the guaranteed 2 augments per item. Another interesting one is Moonlit Forge, which makes it so the lunar phase influences the randomness of your randomly forged armor and weapons. And then Resourceful has gone unchanged. And now Mystic Collection is one definitely worth picking up, is because now the Forge can grab ingredients from nearby chests, trap chests, and barrels just lying around, so it could grab ingredients from here or here. So let's see if I could penetrate that, if there's anything left anywhere. Let's see if I grab myself a mending book. Put that in that chest there, and then load in the item for the recipe for the brain in a jar, which uses a mending book. Is that not in range? Should have been in range. Oh, I don't have it on the forge, that's right. So if it was on the forge, it would have taken the book out of the chest and putting it into the crafting slot. And then you can not have to crowd up your inventory with all the crafting ingredients. And then that is pretty much it. I hope you enjoy playing with Arcana Novum 2.0. There's many exciting things on the horizon, and more updates are to come. Thanks for watching.